Good morning and Shabbat Shalom. I just want to invite everyone so that we can be together in services, that if you don't have a prayer book in the back, there's a cart with prayer books on it that say Shabbat on the spine. Thank you very much, and we're so glad you're here.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so good to be with you on this beautiful morning. It is as though overnight all of our trees and our flowers were budding and coming out. If you look around behind you, you can see the beauty that is right behind you, and it is unbelievable. That beauty reflects not only the beauty of nature and the changing in the seasons, but the beauty that can be found within this sanctuary as Harper becomes a bat mitzvah amidst her family and friends and this beautiful family and community. It is a joy to share in these very special moments. And so we are going to greet the morning with the singing of Ma Tovu, which you can find in your Siddur, your prayer books. If you don't have a prayer book, one of the blue prayer books, they can be found at the back of our sanctuary, and you can follow along as we turn to the words of Ma Tovu, page 74.
Ma Tovu Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani berov chastecha avo veitecha eshtachave el heichal kodshecha be'yiratecha ma tovu Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Adonai ahavti me'on beitecha, umekom mishkan kevodecha. Va'ani eshtachave ve'echra'a evrecha lifnei Adonai osi ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim berov chastecha Aneni be'emet yishecha ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Moments ago, an ancient and beautiful tradition took place where Harper had the talit of tradition placed lovingly upon her shoulders for the very first time by her mom and dad. And it's a reminder of the values that have been so lovingly passed from generation to generation, carried on the shoulders of your ancestors, Harper, up to this very moment, where you now place them on your shoulders. And in our Siddur, on page 88, there's a text that reminds us that when we fulfill certain obligations and take on new adult responsibilities, there's not only a reward in that it brings sustenance and goodness to others, but there's an intrinsic goodness to them that is in itself rewarding. And so it is now a joy to call upon Harper to step up to the bima, where she is going to lead us in this beautiful reading on page 88.
These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
Because it leads to them all. We are now going to turn in our Siddur to page 94, where we join together in Baruch She'amar.
Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch hu, Baruch oseh v'reshit, Baruch omer ve'oseh, Baruch gomer u'mekayem, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch mishalem sachar tov lire'av. Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam la'netzach, Baruch podeh u'matzil, Baruch shemo, Baruch ata Adonai, melech mehulal batishbacho.
We turn now to page 106, as we join together in the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkara v'yikara shemei rabba.
Amen.
V'yalmad yivarach yiruteh v'yalmich malchuteh
V'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael Bagala uv'zman kariv
v'imeru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam le'omei almaya yitbarach v'yishtava v'yapar v'yiroman v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalo shemei dekudasha b'rechu leila min kol virata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalman v'imeru amen.
We now rise as we turn to the call to worship, which can be found on page 108.
Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach, Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue in the Hebrew on page 110.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvorei Hosheh, Osei shalom uvorei et hakol, Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha b'rahamim, Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid, Ma'aseh v'reshit, Marabu ma'asecha Adonai, Kulam b'chochma asita, Malah ha'aretz kinyanecha, Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, Al sheva ma'aseh yedecha, Ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'aruha selah, Or hadash al Sion ta'ir, V'nizkeh kulanu mehera le'oro, Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMorot.
On page 112, we find there a prayer that reminds us of all the love that God holds for each and every one of us. And Harper, when you take a look out into this congregation and you see the eyes of your friends and your family and your community smiling back at you with all of that pride that they hold for you, that's the way we experience God's love in the world. And so we turn to this reading cognizant of the knowledge that we are surrounded by divine love.
How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears who trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, focus our mind on your mitzvot, unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Then we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, and never stumble. Having trusted in your great and awesome holiness, we shall celebrate your salvation with joy.
Let's read together. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright in our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praised be you, Adonai, who chooses your people, Israel, in love. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'emo Yisrael ba'ahava. We continue now with the watchword of our faith, the Shema.
Shema
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
You may be seated. We continue now with the Ve'ahavta on page 116.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'chayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzadecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvleftecha v'aderech uvshokbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'chayu letotafot beineinecha uvtavtam Hamizuzo beitecha uvisharecha liman tizkeru vasitem ekol mitzvotai v'hiyatem kedoshim le'olehem ani Adonai Elohehem asher hotzeitem me'eretz Mitzrayim l'hiolahem l'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your guests. Thus you shall remember to observe my commandments, and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We continue now reading responsively on page 121.
The eternal truth is that you alone are God and there is none else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice.
Let them beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war any more. You shall not hate your brother or sister in your heart.
The
Stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor? Asked God. We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the right of the needy. Praise to God Most High.
Blessed is God and deserving of blessing.
Mi chamolcha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamolcha ne'edar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם Israel, kuma bezrat Israel, ufedechin umecha Yehuda veYisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzevot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Ata Adonai, Gaal Yisrael.
We now rise together as we turn to page 124 for the tefillah.
Adonai, Sifai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanogra, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Asdei Avot v'Imachot, U'Mevi Geula Lifnei V'Nehem, L'Ma'an Shemo Ve'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mehayeh Hakol Atah Rav V'Choshia, Mechalkel Hayim Behesed, Mehayeh Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Alfar, Mihamocha Bal Givurot, Umito Melech, Melech Memir, Umechayeh, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atal HaChayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
We continue reading responsively on page 129.
You are the open door that beckons me in. Peeking around the doorframe, I begin to enter into your glory.
You move me forward, O Eternal, to step beyond self-made boundaries. Lift my foot over the threshold, that I might abide with you.
In the house of the Eternal, I found my question waiting to be posed. They filled me with wonder.
Sit with me, eternal teacher, encourage my seeking,
As I fill my hours with your mitzvot, so shall I be filled. Send me through your door, stretching up to honor your name, sharing out this wonder, enriching myself in the grieving. Baruch atah Adonai, notei abetochenu hayei olam.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. We continue now on page 132. Those who keep Shabbat by calling it a delight will rejoice in your realm. The people that hallows Shabbat will delight in your goodness. For being pleased with the seventh day, you hallowed it as the most precious of days, drawing our attention to the work of creation.
Let's sing together. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shevi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbeu, Veyitangu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Uvashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Zeicher lemaasei v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת.
We continue now on page 135, reading responsively. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat, which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness, which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. We continue now with Ritzeh on page 136.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael utefilatam be'ahava tikabel utehil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha El karov lechol korov penei el avadecha v'choneinu shefoch ruchacha aleinu v'techazen einenu b'shuvecha leTzion berachamim Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato leTzion.
Our tradition teaches us that we are to say 100 blessings a day, 100 blessings a day, so that we can recognize all of the good that exists in our world, so that we can be thankful and express a sense of gratitude for all of the goodness that comes our way. On page 139, we find an interpretive reading of the Hoda'ah. And if in a morning such as this, we may be grateful for the turning of the seasons, we may feel a sense of gratitude for the gift of being able to gather together as community and as family and as friends. And we also may feel the sense of gratitude that a young woman is taking her place among our Jewish people. If you have reason to be grateful this morning, I invite you to say these Hebrew words, Modim anachnu lach, after each of these English readings. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. Modim anachnu lach. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons. Modim anachnu lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements. Modim anachnu lach. For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. Modim anachnu lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared. Modim anachnu lach. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom. Modim anachnu lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose. Modim anachnu lach. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ucha na'eh lehodot.
Sim shalom tova uveracha. Sim shalom tova uveracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Barcheinu yotzereinu, kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha. כי באור פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו. שים שלום טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה ורחה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
With these beautiful words of peace still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time for silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are now going to turn in our prayer books, our Sidurim, to page 244 for Seder Kriyat Torah, where we begin our Torah service. And Harper knows that the centerpiece of each and every Shabbat service is when we take the Torah scroll from the ark and march it around to the congregation, as she will do. And it's a symbol that the Torah and all of its values isn't simply something that we keep up here on the bima, but it is for all of us. And it's meaningful that she is going to be carrying amidst our congregation one of two Holocaust scrolls we have here at our congregation. And this one is over 125 years old and comes from Poland. And it's a beautifully written Torah scroll. Whoever the scribe who wrote this Torah scroll was truly at the height of their craft. But there's a powerful story behind the Torah that we teach each and every week. As all Torah scrolls and the lessons that reside within it, this Torah scroll was much loved by the community that would gather together and learn from its wisdom. One gentleman that was a part of this community particularly loved this Torah scroll. It's somewhat small and it's light and it's good for young people to read from. And when the Germans amassed upon the Polish border, this gentleman had a sense of what might befall the Polish Jewish community. And so he hid the Torah scroll away. And sure enough, when the Nazis entered into Poland, initiating the Second World War, they came and they took the communities of Jews in Poland to concentration camps and death camps. This man was taken to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where life expectancy was only a matter of days. But this man was able to survive there until the end of the hostilities. And truly, it was a miracle that he survived, but he witnessed unspeakable horrors. When the camp was finally liberated and that man was able to return to his home, he uncovered the Torah scroll and he took it to a small surviving remnant that was meeting in the once glorious Jewish city of Warsaw. But when that community, that remnant, became so small and moved to places such as the United States and Canada and Israel and Western Europe, that they decided to send the Torah scroll to the United States, which is when Congregation Shalom learned about it and brought it here to Milwaukee. And the purpose of the Torah being sent to the United States is that a Torah is meant to be used, especially by young people, so that they can grow with a sense of spirituality and enable the spark of hope and liberty and freedom for all humanity to be kindled and continued. And that means when Harper carries and reads the Torah amidst our community, it represents not only the hard work that she's done and how she's been able to learn from the Torah, but it represents how every young person, no matter their religion, their ethnicity, or their nationality, they can be a source of light unto the world, no matter how much darkness we see in it. And even today, amidst the darkness of our reality in our world, Harper reading Torah amidst our community represents a great light and great beauty. And so it is a privilege now to call members of Harper's family to call forward Bodie and Jack and Louisa and Otto and Vivian Bazelon to come forward and open up our ark doors. And it is also a great privilege to call upon your grandparents and parents and brothers to call upon Sue Bazelon, David and Abby Schwartz, and Mike and Kate Bazelon, and Adam and Amy to come stand next to Harper as she receives the Torah scroll.
שאול שערים ראשיכם והינשאו פתחי עולם ויבוא מלך הכבוד. מי הוא זה מלך הכבוד? אדוני צבאות הוא מלך הכבוד. סלה. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו.
Zot Torah, Harper, with great joy, this is the Torah. And you know that this Torah has been passed from generation to generation in your family. Passed with all of the values of goodness and kindness and taking joy in the traditions and being warm and lovely people. It is now a joy to pass this Torah from the generation of your grandparents to the generation of your parents. And now, Harper, it is being placed on your shoulder, or will remain with good health and much happiness. We turn and face the congregation as we recite the watchword of our faith, the Shema. Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God,
Adonai is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo. Gadlu l'Adonai ti, uneromema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hachod. Ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz, ki chol b'shamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, v'hamitnaseh lechol rosh. Mizmor leDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nelim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz. Havu l'Adonai ki vod shemo v'hishtachavu l'Adonai. Kol Adonai hamayim el hakarov v'hirim. Mizmor leDavid, Havu l'Adonai b'nelim, Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam umelo. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam umelo. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam umelo. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam, Yeram hayam umelo. Yeram hayam.
Please be seated. There are moments where we stretch both our hearts and minds, but we also can stretch our bodies. If you'd like to get up and grab a chumash so you can follow along in the service, you're welcome to. They're found at the back of the room. This week's Torah portion is Bahar, and it can be found in our chumash on page 534. We're reading from Leviticus chapter 25, beginning in verse 19. And Bahar is a moment, this idea that Moses is actually in or on Mount Sinai, and a moment of exaltation, a moment of great joy and enlightenment as well. And sometimes we have extraordinary moments in our lives just like that, where we feel as though we're ascending the mountain and we stand at the top and we could look out and see the beauty that's all around us. This is one such moment. And so it is a great honor to call forward members of your family for Aliyah as they ascend with you, as they get lifted up with you, Harper. So it's a joy to call upon dear grandparents, to call upon Sue and Mike and Kate Bazelon, and call upon Abby and David Schwartz. Amdu, Shoshana bat Norman v'Natalie, v'Michael ben Robert v'Anita, v'Abigail bat Meir Hirsch v'Devora, v'David ben Mordechai v'Chana.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
V'natanach ha'aretz pirya v'haltem lasova v'shivtem levetach aleha v'hi tomeru manoho b'shana hashvi'it hein lo nizra v'lo nesof et tevuatenu v'tziviti et pirhati lahem b'shana hashishit ve'asat et hatvua lishlosh hashanim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
Yeshar koach and mazel tov to all of you. It's now a joy to call upon dear aunts and uncles, to call upon Maureen Bazelon and Matthew Bazelon and Shira and Jason Schwartz. Ya'amdu, Matas Yahu ben Michael v'Shoshana, v'Shira, v'Avshalom ben David v'Abigail.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
Uzratem hashana hashminit v'hotem min hatvua yashan ad hashana hatshiit ad bo tivuata tochu yashan v'cha'aretz lo timaher litzmitut ki li ha'aretz ki gerim v'toshavim ahem imadi uvehol eretz achuzatem geula titnu la'aretz.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen.
Mazel tov. It is now a joy call upon dear parents to call upon Amy and Adam Bazelon. Ya'amdu Chana bat David ve'Abigail ve'Adam ben Michael ve'Shoshana.
Baruch hu Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
Ki amucha hiha umahar me'ahuzato uvo goalo hakora ve'lav ve'ga'al et nimkor ahiv ve'ish ki lo yiheye lo goel v'hisiga yado Umata kidei ulato, v'heishiv et shnei nimkaro, v'heishav et ha'odev, la'ish asher makalo, v'shav la'ahuzato.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata Bechotenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
It is now a joy to call upon Harper as she becomes bat mitzvah. Ta'amod, ta'amod, ta'amod ha-bat mitzvah. Ta'amod, chaya bat Adam v'chana. It is with great joy and great fanfare that we call forward Harper Bazelon as she becomes bat mitzvah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamivorah. Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Amen. V'im lo matzah yado day hashiv lo v'haya nimkaro beyad hakoneh oto ad shana hayovel ve'atza bayovel v'shav lachuzato ve'ish kinkor be'moshav ir homa v'hayata gulato ad tom shananim karo yamim tihye gulato ve'im lo yi'el Anulolo, shenat mima vikam, habayit asher ba'ir, asher lo oma, that's me tut, lakonehoto lidorotav, lo yetzei bayovel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Harper, turn to your left. Give your mom and dad a big hug and a kiss.
Good job. That was awesome.
That was a magnificent Torah reading, Harper. That was absolutely wonderful. There is something special about seeing you standing up here with your mom and dad, particularly with these beautiful, beautiful roses and the lights that are right in front of the Torah, as you read. Both of these, or all of these, are symbols of Torah. They are symbols of enlightenment. They are symbols that speak to you. Because as beautiful as these roses are, you've lent something extraordinarily beautiful to this moment. The rose, as we know, has 5 outer leaves that bring the rose together, representing like the 5 books of Torah, but also a hand reached out to our parents, and our parents' hands reached out to ours. And also there are 13 rows in the middle of each petal, representing the 13 attributes of the divine that are always with us. Attributes like being kind and merciful and just and loving and all these things that you are. We know that our children, in a sense, are like flowers growing in fertile soil that are placed there by our parents. And watching your parents look upon you with all that light in their eyes, just like the light of these candles that are right here, and knowing that they have been able to create such a beautiful flower in our world to lend such beauty and enlightenment to our lives, that truly is a gift. And so you keep on being that beautiful flower ascending towards the sun that we all have the privilege of seeing and standing by and admiring for all of the good that you bring. And so you have uplifted the Torah today. Never stop uplifting it. It is a great joy now to call others, dear friends of your family who are going to uplift and bind the Torah, to call upon Randy and Danny Arnstein and Rachel and Matt Weinberg to ascend to our bima as they have the honor of lifting and binding our Torah. Please rise now as we lift and bind our Torah scroll. Yeah. Great. You go down. Okay, so this, yeah, leverage. Remember leverage, nice and tight. Bring it down. Perfect. Now lift it up.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
You may be seated, and now Harper is going to read the English translation of her Torah portion.
You shall observe my laws and faithfully keep my rules, that you may live upon the land in security. The land shall yield its fruits, and you shall eat your fill, and you shall live upon it in security. And you should ask, what are we to eat in the 7th year, if we may neither sow nor gather in our crops? I will ordain my blessing for you in the 6th year, so that it shall yield a crop sufficient for 3 years. When you sow in the 8th year, you will be still eating the old grain of that crop. You will be eating the old until the 9th year, until its crops come in. But the land must not be sold beyond reclaim, for the land is mine. You are but strangers resident with me. Throughout the land that you hold, you must provide for the redemption of the land. If one of your kin is in straits and has to sell part of a holding, the nearest redeemer shall come and redeem what that relative has sold. If a person has no one to be redeemer, but prospers and acquires enough to redeem with, the years since its sale shall be computed, and the difference shall be refunded to the person to whom it was sold, so that that person returns it to that holding. If the person lacks sufficient means to recover it, what was sold shall remain with the purchaser until the Jubilee. In the Jubilee year, it shall be released, so that person returns to the holding. If someone sells a dwelling house in a walled city, it may be redeemed until a year has elapsed since its sale. The redemption period shall be a year. If it is not redeemed before a full year has elapsed, the house in the walled city shall pass to the purchaser beyond reclaim throughout the ages. It shall not be released in the Jubilee.
We turn now to a second biblical reading that we do on every Shabbat. It comes from the prophets. And the prophets weren't simply foretellers predicting some form of future, but they were forthtellers, speaking to society, wishing to create a more just and vibrant community for all, one in which all of us can have a role and all of us can feel a sense of equality in it. Harper is going to be reading today from our Haftorah, and she's going to begin with our blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nviei ha'emet v'atzedek.
Amen.
Vayomer Yirmiyahu haya devar Adonai Elai lemor Hinei Haramel Ben Shalom dodeha Va'elecha lemor Kinei lecha Etzadi asher banato Ki lecha Mishpat hagula liknot vayavol eila Haramel ben Dodi ki devar Adonai el hatzar hamatara vayomer elai kinena etzadi asher banato asher Be'eretz binyamin ki leha mishpat hayerusha ulecha hageula kenela va'eda ki devar Adonai hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor Kol ha'olamim tzadik b'chol hadorot ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'osech ha'medaber u'mkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lichavod u'tifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim la u'mvarahim ota yitbarashim ha'befi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Amen.
High five. You did it.
You did it.
Harper, you can go back and do it again if you'd like. I think we'd all love to hear it. You know, Harper, when you're reading, these are challenging words. Jeremiah is challenging us as people and as a community. But yet, when you hear these words sung so sweetly, like you've sung, and represented so beautifully, then it adds a certain sense of sweetness to the moment as well. You've done so magnificently well, and it is a joy to watch you grow. We are now going to turn to returning the Sefer Torah to the Ark. It's a joy to call upon Levi and Micah Schwartz, who are going to ascend to our bima as they have the honor of opening up our Ark curtains. And we are going to turn to page 256. That's page 256 in our Siddur, and we rise together as a community.
Hey, what's on page?
כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם תורתי אל תעזובו עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו חדש ימינו כקדם.
You may be seated, and now Harper has prepared these words on the occasion of her becoming a bat mitzvah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I'm so happy you all could make it to my bat mitzvah. Today, I become a bat mitzvah. As a young Jewish adult, I take on more responsibilities in Judaism. For example, I will fast for Yom Kippur, which I didn't do before. I can also become part of a minyan. Today, I follow my family's tradition of reading from the Torah and taking place as a Jewish Bazelon. Part of becoming a bat mitzvah is learning your Torah portion. This takes a lot of work and practice. Today, I chanted from the Torah portion Bahar, which is in the book Leviticus. In this portion, I learned about the sabbatical year. This is a year in which the farmers allowed their land to rest and didn't plant any crops. This year isn't just randomly selected, though. As a Jew, I was taught about the creation of the world from the Torah. This was a 7-day cycle, with each day God adding something new. After 6 days of creating our world, God ceased the work of creation and rested on the 7th day. Many of you have heard of Shabbat, which begins on Friday at sundown and ends on Saturday at sundown. Shabbat is the day of rest, when we are supposed to take a break from all things that keep us busy during the week and rest. In biblical times, the ancient Jews would also give their land time to rest every 7 years. Of course, the question is, how did people get the food if all the farmers were not growing anything during this sabbatical year for the land? I learned that the way the people had food during this special year was that for 5 years the crops grew normally, but in the 6th year, God would make that year's crops double so they would have enough for 2 years. This means that these ancient Israelites had a lot of trust in God and that it would be an excellent farming year. In this world today, you can find trust in many things. One thing I need to have trust in is myself and others who help and support me. I have been taking gymnastics for many years. There will be many times I'm scared to do a skill, even if a coach is spotting me. I will end up doing it, but that requires trust in my coach. In gymnastics, I also need to have trust in myself. When I throw a skill, I have to have the trust to be able to think to myself, I can do it. It is equally important to be able to trust in others. I think being able to trust other people and knowing that others trust you is very important. One example of this is when I tell my friends a secret. I trust them to keep these things private. Another example may be when you are put in a bad situation and you need your coaches, parents, or teachers to trust that you are telling the truth and believing in you. These situations can be hard when a person may not believe you even though you are being honest, and it does not feel good. Even today, as I share my words of Torah, I want to trust that everyone here is going to learn something new about me and our traditions, as well as I want to trust everyone will have a good time tonight. Another important part of becoming a bat mitzvah is doing a mitzvah project. For my project, I have decided to raise money for the American Red Cross in the form of sewing bracelets. In total, I raised over $1,000, which is more than double my goal. The American Red Cross is a nonprofit organization that helps people, communities, states, and countries around the world. The American Red Cross helps with disasters, health and safety service, blood donations, supporting American military families, and international services. Unfortunately, today there is great need for their services. One reason I chose to support this organization is my great-grandmother, Dorothy Scher, who volunteered for the American Red Cross through her 90s. She sadly passed away in 2016, but I will always have her in my heart. As a bat mitzvah, I have participated in Yad Vashem's twinning project. This project pairs a B'nai Mitzvah with children who perished in the Holocaust before they could have their own B'nai Mitzvah. Today, I share my Bat Mitzvah with Chaya Zerl Gabelman. Chaya and I share the same Hebrew name, Chayal, which means life. She was born in 1928 in Białystok, Poland. Sadly, she was murdered at the young age of 14. Chaya sadly didn't have a chance to celebrate her Bat Mitzvah as she was at a concentration camp. There are many people in my life who have helped me to become the person I am today. First, I want to thank Cantor Perper, Rabbi Pawlowski, Rabbi Noah, and Mrs. Rosengarten for helping me prepare for this day and teaching me everything I need to know. It will be sad not ending every Thursday with Skittles or M&Ms. Second, I want to thank my friends. I love hanging out with you guys at Ski Club. It is so fun to ski down the slopes with people next to me to make me laugh. Thank you for always being there for me. To my camp friends, I couldn't be more grateful for you. And I love the memories we have together. I love you all so much, and I'm so happy I get to see you. Thanks so much for coming from far away to be with me today. I'm so lucky to share the memories of camp with such special people. Rachel, I love hanging out with you. It's so fun to do errands with you and bake with you. Ruth, my coffee buddy. Let's just pretend I'm allowed to drink it as much as you are. I love our weekly calls, and you have made a great importance in my life. I'm so grateful for our friendship. To my grandparents, I love you all so much. Gigi and Poppy, I love spending time with you when you visit. We do so many fun things together, like take walks to UDF. Grammy, I love you. It is so fun when you come over to my house for dinner. I love playing psych with you and guessing your answer. Grandpa and Grandma Kate, I love you guys. It's so fun when you come over to my house, and I love doing arts and crafts with you. Jack and Bodie, even though we are in arguments more than not, I love you guys so much. Bodie, it's so fun to share a sport with you, and Jack, I love playing basketball against you, even though you are 10 times better than me. I hope that as time goes by, we get into less arguments, but until then, I'm gonna win all of them. Dad, you work a lot, whether it's your actual job or helping me or my brothers out with sports. I love when I get to see you cheering me on at gymnastics meets. You're pretty funny most of the time, except when you're not, and you're just... and you're just annoying and try too hard. I remember how much I loved to play run and jump with you when I was a little girl. It's so fun to do special things with you, like when we go to watch plays. You will always be my first favorite dad. Thank you for being an awesome dad. Mom, one thing that I have learned from you is the value of friendship. When I see your friendship with your closest friends, I hope that when I'm older, I'm able to have friends that I am as close to as with you are your friends. You are a very kind person, well, most of the time. You are very good at art. Thank you for designing everything for my bat mitzvah. I love going shopping with you and having spa days with you. Thank you for working so hard to make this day special for our family. To everyone else in my family, I enjoy when I get to see you, but I am running out of time on this speech. But no, I love you, and I am so lucky to be a part of your family. Thank you to everybody for traveling here, whether you are from California or Milwaukee. I appreciate it. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And now it's a joy to call upon Adam and Amy and Jack and Bodie, if you'd like to come a step forward so that you can share these words of love that you have for Harper.
Dear Harper, you are the best sister I could possibly wish for. You are also a great bro. I love it when we watch shows together, and thank you for supporting me always in my life. Congrats on being a bar mitzvah. I love you so much.
Harper, thanks for helping me with my couch sports. I love having you in my life. You're the best sister I could ever wish for. Congrats, you are a bat mitzvah. I love you so much.
Harper, wow.
Dad and I are so incredibly proud of you. You did such a beautiful job today, but I have to say I'm not surprised. As with most things that you do in life, preparation for your bat mitzvah was no different. Hard work, practice, and determination every step of the way. So on this day, exactly 29 years ago, I was standing on a different bima at my own bat mitzvah. Never in a million years did I think I'd be back up here on the same day congratulating you at yours. You led the congregation so effortlessly with poise and confidence that were palpable. As they say in the gymnastics world, you nailed it. Years ago, one of your teachers called me about some concerns. First, it was Harper talks too much in class. Well, you come by that honestly. I don't think a school year went by without being sent home with social butterfly or too much chatter on my report cards. But something that really stuck out to me in that conversation with that teacher was this. Harper is bossy, loud, and talks too much out of turn. Harper, those characteristics, used in the right settings, are going to take you so far in life. In elementary school, you began figuring out your role as a young girl, and I want you to run with it as you become a young woman. Bossy. Some call it bossy, some call it taking charge. No matter what you call it, you know what you want and how to get things done. Whether you're directing your brothers in some sort of sibling shenanigans or playing a game in the pool with your friends, you are assertive and direct. Keep it up. While being bossy in school might frustrate your teacher, I believe it's a strength in the right circumstances. Bossy stems from the word boss. Keep taking charge. There's no limit to what you can do. Loud. While you might look more like a Bazelon, you get your loud voice from my side of the family. Quiet isn't really in our nature. And yes, while being loud in the hallways isn't the best choice, don't ever lose that voice. That voice of yours will ask the questions and seek out the answers. As you get older, the questions get more difficult, and you need to use that loud voice to ask them. In addition, use your voice to speak up, as you do when something is wrong or something is right. Always stand up for what you believe in and be loud. We need more people like you in the world, especially right now. Talks too much out of turn. Again, you come by this one honestly, Sweet Pea. Both your dad and I are pretty passionate when it comes to our opinions. I think by now you have learned to raise your hand in class, but please keep talking. You and your brothers, for that matter, are the most curious people I know. Question upon question results in answer upon answer. The more curious you are, the more you will learn, and as you know, knowledge is power. Harper, you amaze me every day. You wake up with a smile, ready to tackle whatever is thrown at you. With you, the glass is always half full, and you are always up for adventure and trips to Target. Your confidence and determination drive you. Your heart is so big, and you are so incredibly kind and compassionate to everyone you meet. Keep being you, and nothing will be able to stop you. I am so lucky and proud to be your mom. I love you so much.
I love you.
Harps. So I was sitting in the front row just now, watching you read Torah with your angelic voice and just doing such an amazing job. And it just made me realize why we go through this ritual of the bat mitzvah. And at that moment, the sun was beaming down from the lights. I'm not making this up. And I felt, I felt like a presence of God. And then I felt a tap on my shoulder. And it was Jack asking if there was going to be a brunch after this. All of that is true. But I was told I couldn't go off the cuff, so I did prepare some remarks. Wow, Harps. This is it, the bat mitzvah speech. I've been preparing for this moment since you were born. I better not mess it up. And I'll try to keep the embarrassment to a minimum. First of all, it is so amazing seeing you shine on the bima. You absolutely crushed it today. You really did. Harps, and as you know, and I tell you almost daily, you're my favorite daughter. And I'm glad to know I'm your favorite dad. And there's more dad jokes to come, so just prepare yourself. You have a zest and passion for life that not only impresses me, but blows my mind every day. This is exemplified by the fact that you love so many different activities and want to be involved in literally anything that you can. The school play, student council, ski club, choir, gymnastics, basketball, water skiing, and even fishing. While you love getting a mani and pedi, you also don't hesitate to rip a worm in half or put a leech on a fish hook. You choose to make the most of life every day and do not sit on the sidelines. As an example of your willingness to try anything, earlier this year, I suggested that you go out for the 7th grade basketball team. Having never played basketball before, your answer was, sure, sounds like fun. My only advice to you was to be aggressive. You really took that advice to heart. In your first game, you proceeded to pick up 4 fouls in the first minute and a half. And your coach thought it would be a good idea to make you the point guard. And when you got the ball, you dribbled straight to the basket on your first couple possessions because why wouldn't you? Whether you hit the rim or not when you got fouled and shot free throws is not relevant to this story. I love that you have so many different groups of friends and connect with so many people. From your gymnastics friends, to your school friends, to your camp friends, to know Harper is to love Harper. You are so warm, loving, and generous. You recently went to get ice cream with your friends and asked me for $20. When I asked you why you needed that much, you said you wanted to have extra in case your friends forgot their money. To Harper's friends, please remember to bring your money next time. You are lucky to have acquired some of your great traits from your mom, including her determination, her toughness, and her bubbly personality. They say the biggest decision in your life is who you marry, and I can say without a doubt that the single best decision, and there is not even a close second, the single best decision Amy ever made was to make me her husband. I really admire your drive to succeed in everything you do. When you commit to something, you give it your all and push to achieve your goals. This includes your schoolwork, your gymnastics, and studying hard for your bat mitzvah, but really includes anything you decide to put your mind to. You are smart and wise beyond your years. Your teachers always tell us how diligent and hardworking you are. I was blown away when we were recently talking about my work, and you gave me some very insightful advice that I was able to use and apply and help to get a great result for a client. That's true. Although I could go on, it is now time to bring the speech to an end. Harper, I love you so much. Your passion for life is contagious, and I know whatever path you choose in life, you will apply all your passion, love, and determination. I feel so lucky and blessed to have a front row seat in your show of life. I love you.
Love you.
Moments like these, moments of extraordinary joy, there is a blessing that has been on the hearts of parents in situations and moments like these for generations. And so Adam and Amy, I'm going to invite you to rise. And Bodie and Jack, if you'd rise with them. And Harper too. And grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, if you would stand as well. And family. And the friends who we call family, and community, if you would rise as well, as we say these sacred words of the Shechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life, who has sustained us, and who has brought us to this very special moment today. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Who says your dad's not funny? And who is this teacher? Have this teacher call me, because there's a difference between being bossy and being a leader. And let me tell you something, Harper, you are a leader. And you should be so proud of everything you've accomplished today. What a pleasure it is to watch you grow in your Judaism and in your community, and to see you enter into adulthood with all that wonderful energy and joy that you bring to every moment. I know I share in the happiness that is emanating from your dear family today. You spoke so beautifully today about the sabbatical year and the importance of faith and trust. Faith and trust in the people who walk beside you, faith and trust in yourself, and faith in God that brings us to such beautiful moments. I think for all of us here, we're probably asking ourselves, where does the time go? Wasn't this young lady just a toddler just moments ago? And I think after parenting for a short while, I can honestly say the cliches are true. The days are long and the years are short. Time is a funny thing. It accompanies us on our journeys of life, and we count down or count up to meaningful moments such as these. In fact, we're in a period of counting as we count the Omer from Passover to Shavuot. And your Torah portion speaks of the nature of time. It speaks of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee year. And while it is specifically speaking of what we must do to rest the land or hit a reset button of sorts on society, there are profound lessons that can be drawn from our Torah portion that connect to this day of joy for you and your family. Now, I happen to know that both your mom and dad are runners. And I've seen them running along Santa Monica and Lake Drive. And it's also my understanding that they, from time to time, run marathons. And I stand in awe of runners. They are able to set the pace, to push themselves through whatever might come, fatigue and challenging terrain, the mental or physical blocks that come to try to stop us in our tracks. But what I find particularly meaningful is that they choose to run not on a treadmill most of the time, which keeps you in one place, but rather they run forward through the world. They run on a path. And I suspect that when they're running, there are moments when they lift their heads to look forward or behind them to see the path that they're on and recognize the beauty and recognize the journey, no matter how short or how long it may be. And this is one such moment, a sabbatical of sorts, a Sabbath, a moment in time to pause from the work and the grind, to lift our heads, to reflect on the challenges of the long days, of the efforts and strength of character that you've shown, Harper, in order to reach this moment, and to recognize the people who have traveled this path with you. You are part of a very loving and beautiful family. Grandparents who carry themselves with such extraordinary warmth and fineness, who care about our world and about our Jewish community, both here and in Cincinnati. It's a wonderful thing to know a family and know that their best values are being passed l'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. And Adam and Amy were among the first people I met here at Congregation Shalom. Your dad brought me here, for which I am sincerely grateful. Your mom and dad were among the first to welcome Lauren and me when we arrived in Milwaukee, and I could tell right from the beginning that if all the people at Shalom in Milwaukee were as wonderful as your parents, then truly Shalom would become home. I know well their warmth, their embracing and kind nature. They are people of deep friendships. There is a beautiful saying from our tradition that there are good ways to lead our lives. One is to have a good eye, to have an ayin tovah, to see the world in a positive way, to see and reflect on what is around us and recognize the good. Another is to be a good friend, a chaver tov, to be affirming of others, to be kind and generous of spirit. And as the great sages known as fish say, toss away stuff you don't need in the end, keep what's important, and know who's your friend. But finally, and most essential, because it leads to the other two, is to have a lev tov, a good heart. Your parents have good hearts. There is a fineness of spirit that they bring to their family, their friends, and their community. And Harper, you have that lev tov, that sweet and good heart. In every step of the way, every moment I've seen you on this journey to this accomplishment, you have revealed that big heart of yours. You work hard, but you do it with such a positive attitude. You always seem to be bursting with joy. I don't know how you do it. And it's no surprise to me, you are also a person with eyes that see the beauty of the world around you. They are eyes that see the good and the potential good, as is reflected in your wonderful Mitzvah project of helping the Red Cross. And that heart of yours has led you to fill your days with profound and meaningful friendships, to take others into your heart freely and allow others to bring you into theirs, to reflect joy in the world that is holy, and you bring that holiness to others it is a very important mitzvah, as much as important as any others. And so the journey of life is one that stretches behind you and before you, and whether you run or walk on it, time has a way of providing us with a path. There will continue to be challenges, and there will continue to be moments of accomplishment. There will be moments that test you and moments that call on you to reveal that joyous heart to the world. I know that in those moments to come, You will continue with the same strength and positive attitude that we all admire about you. May you continue on that path to have moments such as these, moments when you will fill and lift your head to look around and recognize the goodness that exists around you. But most importantly, to recognize the good you bring to those who travel this path beside you. God has brought you to this moment, Harper. May God ever keep you in good health and sanctity and in joy. And let us say,
Amen.
Now, Harper, I've got the opportunity to say words that are just for you to hear, so it's a pleasure to invite you up onto the bema. And then Cantor Perper and I will bless you.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's countenance shine upon you and through you.
Yisa Adonai, panav elecha, ve'yasem lecha shalom.
May God smile upon you, Harper, and bless you with God's choicest of blessings, the blessing of wholeness, the blessing of peace, the blessing of shalom. And let us say,
We are now going to turn to the concluding sections of our service. As we turn to page 282, it's a great joy to call upon Harper's Camp Birch Trail friends. If you are here and you go to Camp Birch Trail, you know who you are. So if you'd like to come forward, and you have the honor of opening up our curtain and then standing for Aleinu and then closing the ark doors. And so we turn in our Siddur to page 282, and we rise together as a community for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'teit gedula le'yotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
It's also now a joy to call upon Jack and Bodie to come forward, as they have the honor of reading a reading that will lead us through the Aleinu.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We take a moment now as we think of our dear ones who have passed into life eternal, those for whom we have loved and lost. Particularly in our hearts and minds at Congregation Shalom, we mark the recent passing of Rosalie Kahn. And we also think of those for whom we commemorate the period of Shloshim, the 30-day mourning periods. We think of Noah Arnold, Ronald Cohn, Harriet Dizak, Adeline Dominitz, Jordan Fishman, Ellen Futterman, Pauline Gale, Leslie Germain Martin, Cyril Newman, Cecilia Rinsky, and Ruth Schaller. And particularly also in our hearts and minds, we are thinking of these members of your dear family, Harper, who I know are still smiling down upon you with the same love and affection that they did in life. Remember Anita and Bob Bazelon, Dorothy and Meyer Scher, Natalie and Norman Soref, Ada and Morton Schwartz, Jordan Bazelon. And it's also meaningful that we call to memory Chaya Zerl Gabelman. It's important that you share in that mitzvah of remembering her on this occasion. It may be the first time that her name was mentioned in over 70 years. To hear her name mentioned among us is a meaningful tradition and a beautiful mitzvah that you have done on our behalf. And so we also turn to all of our loved ones who have passed into life eternal. And if you are remembering a loved one or commemorating their yard site on this Shabbat, please do call that name out loud as I look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all of those who have died due to war and or terrorism, all those who have died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who have perished through this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our world, as well as the virus of xenophobia and hatred. And particularly, we think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to the sacred words of Kaddish Yatom, which can be found on page 294 in your Siddur. That's page 294. We rise together as one community. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shmei Rabbah, b'alma tivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, be'agala uv'izman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei amaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. You may be seated. In our tradition, we always turn from sadness to joy as we learn that those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. It's always a joy to call upon David Arnstein, member of our board of directors and our executive committee, and dear friend of the family, to come up. He is not bossy. He's a great leader, and it is always wonderful to share the bema with you, David. You're the boss. You're the boss.
Okay, great, thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Mazel Tov Harper. You did an amazing job. Beautiful, poised, confident, the infectious smile, which is very infectious, and we love being here with you today to celebrate. So I was thinking also today, sitting out there watching Harper, I picture Harper as a little kid at our house in the backyard or in the basement New Year's Eve running around, and now you're a young Jewish adult, which is great and magnificent, and I'm getting old. So that's what's happening right now. So we have some wonderful gifts to present from the congregation on behalf of the sisterhood, the brotherhood, and the congregation. We have your Bar Mitzvah certificate that you can frame and keep with you for your life and hopefully hang up in your room. We have this beautiful book by John Gerda. It's The Many Paths of Jewish Milwaukee. Many of you have seen this before, but you'll be the first in your family to have this book, so you can tell your brothers you got it first. We have a Kiddush cup. I know Shabbat's very important to you and your family, so you can have that for your Shabbat and Friday night and the weekends. We also have a tzedakah box, which I know is also very important to you. All your involvement with the Teen Ovation Board and your Mitzvah project, I know it's very important to you, and you have a lot of empathy for others. So hopefully you'll continue to be a philanthropic with your life and follow your family's tradition. I also have one final gift. I like to depart with some wisdom for the B'nai Mitzvah children. I gave the Gruen family the same advice several years ago. But I know your family is a big sea of blue, and blue is a little dark color, and you have a very, very bright future ahead of you, Harper. So instead, we have for you a nice, bright Wisconsin t-shirt. So remember, wear this with pride on Wisconsin, and Mazel Tov. We love you. Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
Did a great job, okay?
You can actually keep the shirt, though.
No. The shirt has to go.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I can help you if you want.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thank you.
David Harper's face when you pulled out that shirt was priceless. It was pretty amazing. And now, Harper, if you'd like to step over to the S tables, and Adam and Amy and Jack and Bodie, if you'd like to come and stand with them as well, because in just a moment, they are going to lift up the Kiddush cup, and the cantor will lead us in the blessings. But for now, let's turn to our closing hymn for the Shabbat. I invite you to rise now as we join together in singing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu, 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 O Lechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, O Lechol Yisrael. Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu.
All right, Harper, if you would lift up the Kiddush cup, for you have brought forward a cup that is overflowing with blessings. And we sing this timeless prayer.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
L'chaim. Not too much. And now we uncover the challah. Challah is a symbol of sustenance. Not only do we draw sustenance from the bread, but we draw sustenance from our community, our friends, our family. And just like our lives are braided together, so too is that challah. So we lift it up on high and recite a timeless blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המוציא לחם מן הארץ.
B'teavon, Mazel Tov, everyone.
Mazel Tov!
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, Adam, that was amazing. Thanks. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was fun. You've got great timing. I enjoyed it giving it. Yeah. No, it was awesome. Fantastic. One of the best speeches. I appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed my sister's bat mitzvah.
Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, Meatball. Wow,
Amy.